rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Oh, goodness. Being in this particular space for the time that I have, I got to tell you, it is the news cycle seems to be moving at an exponential pace right now. And the reason being, obviously, is because things are coming at us every single way possible, just all over the place. And for somebody like myself, who, handles other things, does other jobs, things like that, being able to keep up with the news cycle is starting to become a bit of a difficult task. I'm not catching up on everything. That's going on. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. That being said, I have been able to pick up at least 3 topics for tonight, that we are going to discuss. One of them in depth, for sure. The other 2, maybe not likely. And depending upon how long I actually talk on that one topic, I may have a couple of other, or I may have some other subject matter to add. But all of that being said, hey, did the people who signed up for the newsletter, did you guys get the short, brief message that I sent out on Sunday? Did you get that in your inboxes? Just want to make sure things are working. I sent through the system. I sent a brief message, just to ensure that the thing is functional before, of course, we go and kick it off. And if you haven't signed up for the newsletter yet, you can do so by going to americanperspective.online. That's americanperspective.online. Wait about 5 seconds for the pop-up to come up to ask you if, to email, you put in your email and your name and you click, subscribe, and it'll put you onto my mailing list, which will allow me to essentially compose one email and send it out to everybody all at the same time. So yeah, you might want to do that. You might want to head on over to americanperspective.online and get signed up on that email list. We've got some things coming up, hopefully in the near future here, that you guys are going to want to be a part of. I'm telling you, if you're an AP fan, if you're a Whiskey Warrior P1, you're going to want to be there. Okay. So go ahead and do that. So there you go. All right. Oh, it looks like a couple people who have signed up did get it. So that's awesome. Thank you. I do appreciate that. So the system is functional. That is wonderful. All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's Pledge of Allegiance is being led by Amy over on Rumble. That's right, Amy, you are up for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. And so, if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hats, if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and join along with Amy as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And I thank you for that, Amy. Appreciate that. If you would like to get your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing it in your style, of course, or reciting it in your style, and take that file that you generate and send it on in to me. Send it to fans, FANS, at americanperspective.online. That's fans at americanperspective.online. And Amy is saying that she is not getting to americanperspective.online for the Let's check. Let's see. Perspective, not turret, dot online. Let's make sure that it comes up. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, there it is. And, well, I've already oh, there it is. There's the pop-up. That's what you should get. So there you go. All right. And yes, I am not on Google list. I'll tell you, she mentioned she misspelled it. That's common for me. I for whatever reason, I always, whenever I type perspective, I always end up putting in perspective, P-R-E, not P-E-R, and it's supposed to be P-E-R. You would think I would know my own damn web address, but yeah, it's a problem. I'll admit it's a problem. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about tonight's headline sponsor. Tonight's headline sponsor is True Grit Roots Network. That's TGRN. TGRN.net is where you can go to find us on the web. That's our home. Okay. That is our home. And you can check us out there. We just launched, we've 1 week in to the Walter Trout Blues Radio signature channel. Blues Rock, I should say. Blues Rock Radio. I got to be clear about that. Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. And I got to tell you, from what I'm seeing from the responses, there has been quite a few people who are taking advantage of listening to us. Go to tgrn.net. You can listen to us right through your browser. Or if you want to, you can download our app straight from there. Actually, it has links to both the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. Also, if you already have the Live 365, the iHeartRadio, or the Audacy, AUDACY apps, you can go and listen to us. You can search us up in their catalog of digital radio stations. Head on over to tgrn.net to find us out. Now, let me tell you, Mondays, we have revamped our lineup slightly, and Mondays are with Big Daddy Ray. Is it Big Daddy Ray? I think so. I think it is Big Daddy Ray. Wait a minute. I gotta take a look. I gotta make sure we're here. It is Big Daddy Ray. I knew it was Big Daddy, but I was a little caught on because we just call him Big Daddy. I mean, that's just the way it is. Anyway, Mondays are with Big Daddy Ray, and Mondays are Blues Therapy Radio. So here's a little bit about Blues Therapy Radio. Blues Therapy Radio plays the blues music you need to hear. We include new releases from all your favorites as well as classics. But we also bring music that you might not otherwise never hear. From regional favorites from around the USA to from artists of many different countries, BTR, Blues Therapy Radio, is a blues rock show that we aren't penned in by that description alone. Try it once and you'll be back. This is an award-winning blues show from a Hall of Fame DJ. Blues Therapy Radio airs Monday, and this is where the lineups change, Monday at 2 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Central, and there's also an encore presentation Saturday at 6 p.m. Central. All of those, of course, are in Central U.S. time. So go and check out Blues Therapy Radio right after this program. Check us out at tgrn.net. And My News has already said that she is loving the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. Don't forget, too, folks, that we do have coming up in spring. Spring's coming really, really quickly. But we do have in spring and another signature channel on tap that I think a lot of people are going to like. So that's coming up. And then, of course, that's part of what that newsletter is all about. So go to AmericanPerspective.online and get yourself signed up on that newsletter. You'll be in the know, I'm telling you, on all kinds of stuff. All right, let's get on with it. Well, apparently apparently there's a bunch of protesters that have decided to try and shut down the highways of a bunch of different places, and they marched in the streets, in particularly on Sunday. They're protesting President Donald Trump's deportation policies. Protesters in Dallas, they shouted "Mexico, Mexico, Mexico," while carrying Mexican flags. Let me just put it this way, people. And in LA on I-10 too. I think it was on I-10. But they also were flying Mexican flags. And I just have a simple question here. Okay, you came here. Okay, you came here to our country. And this applies across the board. I mean, we've seen it all before. We've seen it in, like, you know, the anti-Israel protests that were going on shortly after October 7th and the invasion of Gaza. You know, all of these things. I'm just confused here. I'm confused. Oh, I'm sorry. I said the 10. It was the 101 freeway in LA. But I'm really confused. You come here to this country reportedly because your country is so bad, you're willing to cross the border and break the law to get here. And or you've applied for asylum because your home country is so bad. Okay? Then when you get here, you join these protests, protesting the very country. Okay, the very country that you came to escape from your bad country. And what are you doing as part of the protest? You're waving the flag of the country that you just left because it was so bad. Help me to understand here, because I really don't get it. I mean, first of all, I understand, you know, you want to I get the idea to protest the new deportation policies. But I'm sitting here trying to figure out why would you be waving the flag of the country that you left and are trying to escape to the U.S., where you want us to accept you here in this country? Do you kind of see my point here? And then, of course, in order to endear people, and this goes across all kinds of protests of this nature. Hell, even in Seattle, when they shut down I-5 for a while, actually in Seattle, when the BLM riot protests and WTC riot protests and all of that stuff, I'm confused as to why shut down a highway, pissing everybody off that needs to get somewhere, blocking up emergency services and vehicles. You're not endearing anybody to your situation. First of all, I'm just going to tell you that right off the bat. I mean, here in America, yeah, I mean, we kind of get a little self-absorbed, okay? So realistically, your plight of the fact that you don't want to get deported back to the country that you illegally came from, that was so bad that you love it so much that you're carrying the flag of it, and you're trying to endear people to your cause by keeping them from going to their job, or possibly even harming people who are requiring medical assistance trying to get to a hospital for help. I mean, call me a simple person. Let's just be serious here. Just call me a simple person. But common sense would say, you don't want to piss off the people that you're trying to endear yourself to. I mean, that's it's counterintuitive for you to be complaining about America and carrying Mexican flags in America to protest the deportation laws in America that you broke to get here in America. I don't know. Do you see my point? Do you see where I'm going here? Because this kind of nonsense doesn't make sense to somebody with a half amount of intelligence. It just, and then to go so far, and this is the other thing that occurred, to go so far as to take the American flag, which of course Americans love, and believe it or not, if there were true Americans in that crowd or close to that crowd and they saw that happening, I guarantee you there would at least be a slight boot stomping, okay, that you would end up getting. I'm just saying, because Americans love their flag. We love our flag. We love what it symbolizes. We do the Pledge of Allegiance to it. We appreciate the people who have died under it and for it. And yet you're sitting here again trying to say that, hey, I'm protesting something, but I'm going to just piss you off because I need you to be pissed off, not on my side. Yeah, that really makes a lot of sense. Whatever. Again, I'm kind of confused about the whole thought process here about that. Yeah, it just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. But hey, whatever, to each his own. You guys just go ahead and keep doing what you're doing, because you're not endearing anyone to your cause. I mean, people want people want illegal aliens to be deported. That's a popular sentiment here in the United States. That's it. It's just what it is. All right. Let's move on from that, because, I mean, frankly, again, I don't think I'm going to get any answers from anyone who can explain to me the logic with all of that, because it's completely illogical. But anyway, all right, moving on. So the next item on the list here, which is quite a big item, we talked about it last Saturday, all right, which was the whole idea of tariffs. Now, I've told, yes, okay, first of all, to be 100% clear, all right, tariffs are a tax. There's no denying that. Tariffs are a tax, all right? They are a tax on goods that are being imported from a specific country into our country, or being imported into any other country, whatever the home country is, okay? Tariffs are a tax. The idea of tariffs, though, is a tool. It is a tool that, when wielded appropriately, can instigate change in the country to which you are applying the tariffs to. Okay? So here's the thing. Everybody, when Trump announced Friday that he was putting a tariff on, was it Friday or Saturday? I can't remember. But anyway, when he announced that he was putting the tariffs on Canada, on Mexico, and on China, okay? As I said in my last episode, it's the carrot stick approach. The carrot is, hey, you guys do what we want, and I won't punish you. The stick is, yeah, you didn't do what we want, and so I'm going to punish you. Well, like what happened with Colombia. Colombia, of course, bent over backwards within 1 hour. I don't even think it was like 45 minutes before they said, yeah, you can land your plane here. We're going to take everybody back. And in fact, they even, 48 hours later, I believe, they even encouraged anyone who had come here illegally from Colombia that was a Colombian citizen to please exit the nation by the earliest you possibly can, kind of thing. Because again, the tariff is the stick. It's also the carrot. And you know, for everybody who looks at Trump and is like, well, Trump said this, Trump said that. Well, Trump is very transactional. He's always been that way. And in his mind, again, if you read The Art of the Deal, if you listen to the man himself, he tells you every single time, all he cares about is winning. He is not going to necessarily be on the short end of any kind of transaction in order to lose. He's just not. Okay. Now, as Woodens, aka G, notes on Rumble, someone needs to post the tariffs that these countries are already applying to us. With those in mind, these new ones don't seem draconian at all. So, yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's that we've been, even with our partners, Canada and Mexico, we've been on the, shall we say, the losing end of them. Okay. So this is the thing. All right. And keep in mind, again, tariffs are just one tool. All right. And most often tariffs are utilized, and as Buddy points out, he just popped in with this, tariffs only work in certain situations, and imbalance in trade or high debt ratio needs to exist first. And he is exactly right. What he's discussing here or talking about is what's called a trade deficit. Now, a trade deficit occurs simply when a country's imports exceed its exports to any country. For an example, okay, in terms of, and this comes from Stock Talk Weekly on X. Mexico's exports to the U.S. as a percentage of their GDP is 35%. Canada's exports to the U.S. as a percentage of their GDP, 22%. Here's where the rub comes into play. Our exports back to Canada, 1.5%. Our exports to Mexico, 1.2%. Meaning they send us a lot more than what we send them. And this is why the tariffs work. Now, let me go ahead and change that. You know, you're thinking, GDP, okay. Here, let me give it to you in terms of monetary value. This from the Office of the United States Trade Representative. Here's what it is. Our exports to Mexico in 2022 were $362 billion. Our imports were $493 billion. So that made us in a trade deficit with Mexico of around $131 billion in 2022. Okay. This is why the tariffs work in terms of using it as a cudgel, I guess, or a stick in the negotiation process. They need us to finance their economy more so than what we need from them, because they're not buying the same amount of stuff that we are. We're buying way more products from them than they ever have from us. Okay. Now, with Canada, it's not quite as big of a gap. In Canada, again, according to the Office of the United States Trade Representative, Canada, our exports were 427 billion, while our imports were 481 billion. So the actual trade deficit with Canada only ended up being 53.5 billion. And again, this is in 2022. Okay. Now that can change. That could either be a monthly kind of thing, like a short-term trade deficit, or it could be a long-term trade deficit. The point here that I'm trying to make with all of this is the fact that the reason that the tariffs work is because these countries are essentially in hock to our consumers because our consumers help float their economy. Okay? And it's that kind of a scenario that makes it to where tariffs and the threat of tariffs can actually work. Now, the funny thing about it is Trump announced those tariffs, and here we are Monday morning, and we get this headline. Now, this is in Woke Spy, but this headline: Mexico caves, orders 10,000 troops to the border. And Trump announces that he is putting a freeze on the tariff, meaning he's putting it on hold. Okay? Well, that's why. This is the point. This is why tariffs are available as a tool, but it's judicious and appropriate applicability or application of that tariff that makes things function. Now, a lot of the left jumped on the social medias and they immediately are like, hey, you know, Trump really screwed up. He really screwed up because the Biden administration had 15,000 troops. Except there's only one problem. That, and believe me, I've seen the AP article that was thrown out there. There's a small little 3-word item that says that this is not the same. The article that was written in the AP back in, I don't know, like 4 years ago, saying that Biden got Mexico to like send 15,000 troops to a border, not the border. The 3 words are its southern border. So he got Mexico to send 15,000 troops down to their southern border. Trump got them to send 10,000 troops to their northern border. Now, I'm not exactly a geographic, genius here, but our southern border to Mexico is their northern border, right? Basically, folks, what ended up happening is exactly what Donald Trump wanted. Donald Trump wanted Mexico to take some responsibility for the drugs and the illegals that are crossing our border indiscriminately, and and received assistance from the Mexican government in order to do this. Now, all of that being said, keep in mind, especially in the northern part of Mexico, the cartels are actually the cartels themselves are actually ingrained within the government. So this is something that she's going to have to deal with. All right, but the problem here is that, or the challenge that Trump has is keeping her to her word. And that's why he is saying that he's only freezing the tariff for 30 days. We're going to have to see what this happens, or what happens in the future with all of this. But the point is, okay, is that it's only a 30-day respite. It's going to allow for more high-level negotiations between Mexico and America with regards to this. And all of this is going to be headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, by the way, according to the article here. Yeah. So, yep. So Chuck Schumer, of course, was talking about the Trump tariffs, and he tried to put a negative spin on it. He threw this out on X, talking about, they're going to ruin Super Bowl Sunday by raising the prices of beer and guacamole. Really? So the beer that he put up was, in terms of in his hand, was Coronas. Well, now that the tariffs have been frozen, Chucky, you jumped way too fast. You really did. You really did. And of course, all of the left they're just having a terrible time keeping up with all of these changes and everything that's occurring here. They're just freaking out because, again, the left, in reference to Canada, the left started posting pictures of how, you had store shelves that had Canadian labels on the store shelves and so on and so forth. Well, here we are, Monday evening. Trump wins again with the tariffs. Trump to pause tariffs for 30 days after talking with Trudeau. Canada is going to appoint a fentanyl czar. So this development came, of course, hours after Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum reached a similar deal with Trump. This is in the Epoch Times. Canada has agreed, and this is a post on from Trump on Truth Social after the call. Canada has agreed to ensure we have a secure northern border and to finally end the deadly scourge of drugs like fentanyl that have been pouring into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans while destroying their families and communities all across our country. In an announcement on the agreement in social media, Trudeau mentioned Canada's previously announced $1.3 billion or 900 million US plan to boost border security, while saying around 10,000 frontline personnel will be working to protect the border. So this, again, people, all right, I'm just telling you right here, right now, tariffs, while if it had sparked a trade war, which again, as I pointed out just a few minutes ago, they would have been on the losing end of that trade war. They just, honestly, they would have been. They would have lost billions of dollars in, on their products. Now, Canada decided to like take this tact. Well, if you're going to tariff our stuff, we're going to tariff yours. Like I pointed out, Canada could probably have gotten away with that. A little bit better than Mexico could have, because Mexico did the same threat. But the thing about it is, folks, is that's not the point of the tariffs. The tariffs are I mean, yes, tariffs are a tax. Yes, it is a way to generate income, but the threat of tariffs and the application of such are essentially a bargaining tool. They're a bargaining chip. They're a negotiation tactic. And so whenever you hear somebody talk about tariffs, yes, tariffs are a tax. They exist today. They exist in many products across our, across our economy, both imports and exports, because other countries tariff the crap out of us. For an example, China tariffs the crap out of our products, because they want people to buy their Chinese products, not the American-made ones. This is part of the reason why trade deficits exist, because of the fact that other countries, and Canada is to blame for doing this too. Canada does the exact same thing. Believe me, they are, as far as a country is concerned, at least the countries that I've ever dealt with, they are true Canada first people. They believe by their laws, they believe in Canada first. And I can't blame them for that. I'm not even going to try to say that that isn't a good policy, because that's exactly where we're trying to go here. The challenge with all of this, though, is that when you are a partner, when you are an ally, you need to be able to understand that you must work with your allies in order to come up with an equitable solution across the board for everyone. And that's what the threat of tariffs does for these people, is it brings them to the bargaining table. That's the incentive. It's like, hey, look, I'm planning on doing this if you don't do X, Y, Z, or all three. And that brings them to the bargaining table, because you are essentially creating a pain threshold for that or other country, economically speaking, by saying this is what's going to happen. Now, the other thing that that the left really had a problem with was, of course, Monday morning's opening on the stock market reflected what happened over the weekend. Okay. And yes, the Monday morning opening, it opened down and was diving. Well, then all of a sudden, Mexico's tariff got frozen. And next thing you know, the market bounced back. In fact, to the point where it was only about 150 points back from where it was when it started. Okay. And the thing about it is that a lot of people don't understand. Yes, the market conditions, you know, they were reacting to the conditions. But here's the thing. You can have broad sweeps of ups and downs on the market. What really counts, what only counts when you're dealing with the market itself in terms of like the Dow Jones Industrial Average or any of these others, is the point where it opened and the point where it closed. Everything that happens in between is going to be volatile. That's exactly what the market is. The market is not a static thing. It's going to fluctuate depending upon what people who deal with the market buy and sell. This is the case with anything. You cannot sit here and trust that just because the market opened and it looks like it's going down, that it's going to go down for the rest of the day. Chances are, based on history, it's going to come back. And that's exactly what it did. 150, 200, 300 points dropping or coming back or whatever. It doesn't, none of it's going to make that much of a difference in the long run because those are typical daily gains and losses in terms of it. Point is, don't panic. You don't have to panic about what's going on with these tariffs. I'm telling you, if the tariffs get implemented, okay, yes, it is potentially going to make a little bit of a hurt for a period of time, presumably for a short period of time. And keep in mind, Trump is not going to always win in these cases. But I can tell you this much. His record is such that he is going to come out on top the majority of the time. All right. So we have one other item on the list for tonight, and that has to deal with this thing called USAID. That's right. Trump, and more importantly, and more to the point, Elon Musk, apparently as a part of Doge, tweeted something or put out on X, posted on X with regards to the money that's flowing into the USAID, okay? In terms of how much money has been going through there, and the suggestion came out to eliminate the USAID. Well, for those that don't know, the USAID, which is the department called the U.S. Agency for International Development, okay? Well, that freaking took them in an uproar. In fact, it even got a few senators who should actually know better on some of this stuff with their panties in a wad. And yes, I did say that. It got their panties in a wad such that one of them is now saying that he's going to hold up Trump's State Department nominations over this. Here in the Epic Times, this guy's a Hawaiian lawmaker, so he's with like Mazie Hirono, there in the state of Hawaii. But anyway, his name is Senator Brian Schatz, and he said on Monday that he's going to place a hold on President Donald Trump's State Department nominees following the recent flurry of activity in the USAID. Okay. Schatz, who sits on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, said that he would put a blanket hold on the State Department picks in protest of recent talks. And again, all this is talk. Okay. No, Nana, it's Schatz, SCHATC, but that's okay. Anyway, so essentially, he put a hold. He's planning on putting a blanket hold. Now, for those of you to understand exactly what's going on here, the Senate rules, under the Senate rules, a single senator can hold up nominations, even if the other 99 want them to move quickly. Right here, you can see it. And this is forcing the Senate to use up many hours of floor time to advance nominations or promotions. Now, he told the Wall Street Journal, "I will oppose unanimous consent. I will vote no. I will do maximum delays until this is resolved." Now, the senator seems to be under the belief that Donald Trump can't get rid of the USAID, because he seems to think, as he points out right here, you cannot wave a wand and eliminate a department established by federal law, so it will be reversed by a court. Well, folks, there's only one problem with that. The actual department, USAID, wasn't established by law. Like, wait, did Whiskey just say something? What? Yeah. The actual law doesn't specify what department. Let me show you. So here, this is the Senate's copy of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. Okay, so this was put together, all right, by the Congress, and John F. Kennedy signed it into law. That same time, once he signed it into law, JFK created, via executive order, the agency USAID. Here's the proof right here. This is the office of the historian, and they basically tell you right here that in the aftermath of World War II, the United States provided economic assistance to European nations to aid in their reconstruction and extended security assistance to these and other nations as a bulwark against the perceived communist threat. The mechanisms for deploying this assistance were spread over several government agencies, and as a result, problems arose concerning the coordination of these efforts. Kennedy sought to both improve the administration of U.S. assistance and refocus aid to meet the needs of a developing world. In September of 1961, Kennedy signed into law the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961, which mandated the establishment of a single agency for the coordination of foreign assistance. Now, here's the key. And this is the key. The law does state that a single agency will coordinate all of this under the advisement of the State Department. Okay? But here's where the rub comes into play. The Agency for International Development was established under an executive order. The AID is not part of the law. The AID doesn't exist until some amendments that were made recognize it as the department, but it also recognizes a bunch of other departments too. So the problem here is not so much that an agency is supposed to do this in accordance with the law. The problem is the USAID isn't the named agency in the bill that created the idea of putting a single agency in charge of all of this. And this is where Schatz is wrong. The agency itself was not created under congressional statute. All it simply said, and I've got the point right here where I can show you, all it simply said is right here in the bottom of, right here in the bottom of this. Go ahead and get closer. Oh, there we go. Let's go and get closer here. It states, under the policy guidance of the Secretary of State, the agency primarily responsible for administering this part should have the responsibility for coordinating all United States development-related activities. That's it. That's it. That's all it says, is that there needs to be an agency that coordinates all of these activities. Again, under the policy guidance of the Secretary of State. So what has Marco Rubio done? Marco Rubio basically said, hey, by the way, I've taken this over. I've taken this part over, and I've delegated it to a underling. Which, again, that's what the law says. It's under the auspices of the Secretary of State. I'm telling you, these people, they become lawyers and they forget how to think. There is nothing else in this document. Believe me, I searched it. There's nothing else in this document until later on where it was amended for certain funding, specific funding that mentions the USAID. It isn't until then that it points it out. So the law itself didn't actually create the USAID, unlike what a lot of these people think. The law does state that there should be a single point agency that coordinates all of the efforts, but that's it. And it's all under the auspices of the Secretary of State. So again, what are they going to do? And by the way, just to kind of point this out, because, I mean, let's be honest, wouldn't be this kind of a show if I didn't point this out. But here, take a look. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. I encourage everyone to read this article. Somebody want to tell me where in all of this foreign aid, where America's taxpayer money gets sent off to foreign countries to help them develop? Where does this fall? In the approved tasks that our government is supposed to do? Well, I'm going to answer that question. It doesn't. There's not a single task here other than potentially regulating the commerce. Okay. Regulating commerce with foreign nations, which is point number 3 right here, to regulate commerce with foreign nations. But again, that's commerce. That's trade. Us just giving money to them for initiatives that we think are great and possible. I mean, again, it doesn't exist, folks. And as you've always heard on this program, and I keep pointing out, there's that little thing called the 10th Amendment, which is at the bottom. That is at the bottom of the Bill of Rights, by the way, that basically says that, well, if it's not in the Constitution nor specifically denied by it, then it becomes a part of the states, so, or to the people. Not a federal government job, folks. Therefore, the question becomes, is this law even legal that set up this thing? And his buddy points out, same as the U.S. Department of Education. Which, by the way, I haven't seen like a clear article yet, but I did see somebody on X, one of the accounts that I do follow, mention that talk of the executive order to abolish the Department of Education is on its way. Don't know how accurate that is, but I can tell you that, yeah, it's anyway. Yeah, so folks, I'm telling you, these senators who are supposed to know the law and know all of this stuff about the law, they are really getting themselves into a tizzy about this entire situation and about all the things that Trump is doing. Believe me, Trump has had 4 long years to think about what he can and cannot do, constitutionally speaking. And I'm telling you, if this thing goes, which I'm sure they're going to find, that the left will find some liberal, leftist, lunatic judge somewhere to issue an injunction to keep the president from getting rid of the USAID, which, by the way, there are some rumors that are running around that it's just a CIA front. Don't know how true that is. But anyway, there is a possibility, though, that there is going to be an injunction that comes out about this. They've already said, a couple of senators have already said, oh yeah, we're gonna challenge this in court. I don't see within the law where it basically says that the government agency that is supposed to oversee this stuff is the USAID. Okay. I don't read it. I don't see it in the law. It does say that there needs to be an agency for coordination of all of this, but that's it. And by the way, the rest of that law actually just outlines the policies and policy prescriptions, again, over potentially an unconstitutional premise, which is that we can use American taxpayer dollars unconstitutionally to help rebuild other countries and provide other things to push certain agendas, which is essentially the whole point of this. Now, I know JFK is like a darling in the world of the leftist lunatics. I get it. But again, I'm just going to bring this back. The ones that seem to expand the power of the government over time in history, not saying this is 100% true across the board, but Democrats have consistently ignored the Constitution and created agencies, created laws, created specific areas that do not fit with the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 is the only things, until amended, that Congress is allowed to be doing. That's it. And even then, things like agencies such as the IRS, all that is that's basically taking Congress and passing their responsibility off. Okay? Because that shows up in the first one, Congress, the Congress, not Congress shall make an agency to, but it says the Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debts. And also provide for the common defense and the general welfare of the United States. That's what our tax money is supposed to go to, not foreign entities. It's supposed to go to us, the U.S. That's it. By the way, that's pointed out in terms of taxes. That's not telling Congress that they can just make up laws willy-nilly because they think that it's good for the general welfare. No, that's talking specifically about the taxes. That's it. Anyway, so yeah, there you go. All right. So we have a couple individuals who are being confirmed or working on being confirmed. And there has been an additional senator who has now stated that she will vote to confirm Tulsi Gabbard as our Director of National Intelligence. Susan Collins, amazingly enough, has said that she looks forward to working with Ms. Gabbard to strengthen our national security. So there we go. She announced today that she will be voting to confirm Tulsi Gabbard. As after extensive consideration of her nomination, I will support Tulsi Gabbard to be the Director of National Intelligence. As one of the principal authors of the Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act of 2004 that established this coordinating position, I understand the critical role the DNI plays in the intelligence community. This is what Collins said per Punchbowl News' Max Cohen. So there you go. So she has decided that she is going to get on board and play nice. Anyway. Yeah, we'll kind of have to see how that plays out. But hey, I'd really like to see Kash Patel go through as well. Especially because he makes Adam Schiff shake in his shifty boots for sure. Anyway. All right, folks, that's about it. I don't understand why these people seem to think that all you have to do is freaking be decent at research and you can find these things. Just, they have staffers. What, don't their staffers know how to Google? I mean, seriously. Anyway, I digress. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. Once you are signed up and signed in, search up the American Perspective channel and make sure you hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget, if you haven't already, head on over to americanperspective.online. Wait about 5 seconds, okay? 5 to 6 seconds, and you should get a pop-up to allow you to sign up for The Perspective. That's the newsletter title that I'm toying with. So anyway, you can go and sign up for that. And that's where you'll get information, exclusive information and stuff that I don't necessarily cover on the show. We will see you tomorrow night. Oh, hey, last programming note. I do go into my on-call rotation for this next week. So that's why you should really sign up for the newsletter, because that makes it easy for me to just send out a quick blast saying whether or not I get stuck doing other stuff and that I'm not going live. But anyway, that's one of the reasons why you want to be on the newsletter for sure. Okay, folks, we'll see you hopefully tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll do it all again tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.